Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakach Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta, and yesterday we talked about Donald Trump and him pushing for denuclearization. And I picked that article up a few days ago, maybe almost a week ago, and then come to find this article where Trump is saying, beyond anything, Trump warns of big monster nuclear weapons that pose greatest threat to the U.S. And so he's been talking more and more about the threat of nuclear war. And so much that I've even been seeing articles speaking of him possibly getting a Nobel Peace Prize, which would make some sense because I think it's Albert Nobel. He was the creator of dynamite, and bombs go hand in hand. So I guess that would make some sense. But this article here is from the Economic Times. Just came out March 10th, and let's see what it's got to say. And before we get started, Salakia, I'm suffering from some allergies, so stuffy nose with a runny nose, and yeah, but we're going to get through this. And it says U.S. President Donald Trump has downplayed the threat of climate change and said monster nukes from the United States and Russia pose the biggest threat to Armageddon. And those are the two main players that are going to be in Armageddon. Armageddon from the Greek Harmageddon. Actually, let's get it. So it's Strong's G717 Harmageddon, which is through the Hebrew it's mountain of the troops. Here it just says a hill or city of Megiddo, but we could even see here hill, mountain, and then it has Megiddon, but even within this it has the word Gad, which shows troops. So it's mountain of the troops. And this is going to be fought over in the Middle East with, the two main players being Russia and the United States, or biblically Babylon the Great and Gog of Magog. They're going to be fighting it, Gog or Russia, with their bands or their allies, which would include China and Iran and the other BRICS nations and everybody against the West. And in America's corner would be Israel, because it's prophesied that the beast, which is NATO and the EU, are going to be shooting nukes onto America as well. It says the beast shall hate the whore and make her desolate and burn her with fire. Paraphrasing. But getting back to the article, now that we know what Armageddon is, and this is the same thing as the Valley of Yahweh Shaphat, Lord's judgment. But it says President Trump has warned that monster nuclear weapons are the biggest threat to humanity and could easily end the world tomorrow, and Lord willing. But we do know that the MOTB, which is the digital micro CHIP, that has to be made mandatory first, and then all of this stuff is going to get rolling. And Lord willing, it's sooner rather than later. It says the commander-in-chief gave the grim warning as he lamented the dangers of stockpiling nukes amid his push to kickstart arms control talks with Russia and China again. Trump warns about nuclear weapons. Donald Trump has hit out at climate lunatics, saying the world should be more concerned about the dangers of nuclear weapons than climate change. In which, it should be, because this climate change will take a long time when these nukes are right here, but these people are asleep, so who cares? It says in an interview with Fox News on Sunday, Trump said the country's greatest threat was nuclear weapons that are big monsters. And it's almost like he's been listening to our apostles and elders speaking on this, because they've been warning and trying to wake up the elect to the fact that America is going to get nuked, and it's going to be so bad nobody's ever going to dwell here again. It's going to be a great example of how not to be. It says Trump went on to lament the amount of money the United States, which has the second largest stockpile of nukes in the world behind Russia, has spent on its nuclear weapon program. But you have those, and you're going to use them. It says, I listen to these climate lunatics, and they talk about global warming, and they say the ocean is going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 300 years, he said. And nobody ever talks about nuclear weapons. They don't talk about the dangers of a nuclear weapon, which could happen tomorrow. And it could. Lord willing, it happens very, very soon. Because once the destruction of Babylon the Great occurs, then the beginnings of the kingdom of heaven can begin. Then the foundations can be laid, but it won't happen until Babylon falls. It says in an interview with Fox News on Sunday, Trump said the country's greatest threat was nuclear weapons that are big monsters. So you can see he has just calling them big monsters seems like it's shows the fear that he has of it. I listen to these climate lunatics, and they talk about global warming. Not just read that. Slovakia. Going to move down a little bit. It says we spend a lot of money of nuclear weapons. The level of destruction is beyond anything you can imagine, he said in the wide-ranging interview. It's just bad that you have to spend all this money on something that, if it's used, it's probably the end of the world. And it's the end of their world, not the end of the world altogether, because the Lord made this earth for men to abide in. But it's going to be the end of Esau's world, or the end of an age, the end of an eon, in which Esau, being the self-proclaimed white man, Trump being one of them, including those small hatters, it's the end of them having any power or influence on this earth. And it says Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. Which, no, we won't get that. Seth quoted it, but it says, I watched Biden for years say our greatest existential threat was the climate. I said, no, the greatest is sitting in shelves in various countries called nuclear weapons that are big monsters that can blow your heads off for miles and miles and miles. And you can just hear Trump saying this because he elaborates a lot. This is Trump's request to Iran that comes days after Trump said he sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, seeking a new deal with Tehran to restrain its rapidly advancing nuclear program and replace the deal he withdrew America from during his first term in office. Khamenei on Saturday rejected the offer, saying any such talks with the U.S. would be aimed at imposing restrictions on Iranian missile range and its influence in the region. And yeah, they're correct on that. They shouldn't talk to Trump because the U.S. is going to keep theirs, and they're just trying to limit everyone else in the world, and that's not how things work. He says he did not call the U.S. by name, but said a bullying government was being persistent. Speaking at the Oval Office on Friday, Trump said, we have a situation with Iran that something's going to happen very soon, very, very soon. And there's just talks of the Israelis saying that they're going to go to war with Iran in 2025. And so we'll see what happens. And this is the month of March, which is named after Mars, the Roman god of war. And so we're seeing war talk and Lord willing, see some wars get started up. We just saw there's a thing going on in Syria currently. And so, Lord willing, more and more death and killings and destruction to this world, because this world needs to end for the righteous world to begin. It says, hopefully we can have a peace deal, he said. I'm not speaking out of strength or weakness. I'm just saying I'd rather see a peace deal than the other, but the other will solve the problem. With his veiled threats during his 2024 presidential campaign, Trump was upfront about his intention to scrap numerous kamikaze climate regulations introduced by the Biden administration. In his previous tenure, Trump's administration attempted to dismantle over 100 environmental safeguards. Trump recently warned that Russia has by far the most nukes in the world, but predicted that China, which has the third largest stockpile, will likely catch up within a decade, and probably much quicker than that, because we're expecting these to pop off sooner rather than later. And it says let them beat their plowshares into spears. So taking money they would have spent in agriculture and other things to help their country and putting it into their weapons programs and their military, because we're in a time of war. We're in a time of war. Let's get into the scriptures. We're going to start at Isaiah 54 and 16. It says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai created and put each and every individual that worked at Los Alamos on the Manhattan Project to build that first atomic bomb. And then all of the scientists who have worked in development and refining it until we get nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, and then these ICBM propulsion systems. And the Lord created every bit of this. He did this to bring forth this work, to bring forth this waster to destroy. And there's nothing they can do to put this back in the box. This is how their world ends. And they might try to go opposite of everything to make this not happen, but all of that's going to work out for it to happen, no matter what. No matter what, the Edomites and the other heathens lose power, because Yahushai is returning. And this is Yahushai's story and his grand entrance onto the earth. It's going to be with nuclear fire and with his chariots burning up Babylon, because it's done so much wickedness, and the Edomites have done so much wickedness that they can't be forgiven. This can't be turned away, and there's nothing they can do to stop this. Even if Trump wins that Nobel Peace Prize, there's still going to be nuclear war. And that'd be very fitting for him to win it, and then for America to get nuked, because Yahushai is going to bring that peace. And that's the only time that we will have no more war, after America is nuked, after Babylon the Great falls. Then we will have no more war. Isaiah 2. Isaiah 34, and we'll start at 1. It says, Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is upon all nations. So every single body, all of the nations, including Israel, because the 2/3 still get judged. And it says, in his fury upon all their armies. And they're going to be meeting at Armageddon, the mountain of the troops. He said, he hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. So they're going to go over there and beat each other up. And nukes are going to go off. And it's going to beat up America. And it's going to beat up Israel. And it's going to beat up various parts of the earth. There will be nuclear war. It says, their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with blood. These mountains going into governments, they're all going to be cast down, because Yahushua is going to put down all rule, power, and authority. And it says, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. So the armies of these people in power currently, it's all going to come crashing down. It says, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as a leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. And I can just imagine a nuclear mushroom cloud. In verse 4, it says, for my sword, the ICBM, shall be bathed in heaven. Because these ICBMs, when they're launched, they go up into the upper atmosphere. They go into the heavens, and then they come down upon their target. It says, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. And that is the Greek way of saying Edom, which shows you there's a Greek word in the Old Testament and how they've meddled with the scriptures. And Edom, or Idumea, being so-called white people, and those small hatters. And upon the people of my curse to judgment. This is how they go out. They're cursed to this. This is their whole purpose. This is why they've been on the earth. To be a sword for the Lord, his whooping stick, and to be a great example of how not to be. This is their fate. Their judgment. And these are the same wicked that the Lord has saved for himself for the day of judgment. It says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And this is everywhere that they are, but primarily Basra is speaking of Babylon the Great, aka America. But everywhere they are, they're going to be put down. And once the smoke of World War III clears, they're all going to be in chains. And the Lord has a great sacrifice. This is basically America is an altar. It's just a giant altar. And that's why you have all these smaller altars being the camps in every major town in America, letting them know that they're about to be judged. And it says, and the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. And this land has to be soaked with blood because it's so much blood has been shed here in America. And the only way to cleanse that land is for the blood to be shed of he that slayed him. So these Edomites that came over here, they slaughtered the tribe of Gad and spilled their blood all over the land. And so the only way for it to be cleansed is for the Edomites to be slaughtered. And that's what's about to happen, in which they are their forefathers through reincarnation. They were here doing those things. So they are guilty, and they're not going to be let off the hook. There's no place of repentance for Esau. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. This is how this whole controversy, this back and forth, ends. Because you've got Edomites claiming to be Jacob, to be the actual Israelites, to be the Lord's people. And then you've got Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans claiming to be the Lord's people. So there's controversy between this. And then you even have various other heathen groups making the claims as well. But this controversy ends when you see the Lord take his chosen. Then we'll know. And when America's nuked and Israel is nuked, the land of Israel nuked, then we will all know. And that's how they'll be rewarded for being complete frauds and violent people and liars and thieves for far too long. That's how they'll be rewarded, with these nuclear weapons coming down upon their pape. It's just what's going to happen. And so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Urchach, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.